Good afternoon and welcome to Futures Recovery Healthcare Heroes Ascent program. My name is Cindy Goss and I am here today with one of our distinguished board members, Lieutenant Colonel, retired Tanya Juarez. How are you today?
I'm good, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, you're very welcome joining us. I'd wanted to talk a little bit about some of your background. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your career?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Tanya Juarez. As you mentioned, I recently just retired last year in 2020 after 20 years of serving active duty Army. I am a behavioral health officer or retired behavioral health officer. I'm currently a licensed clinical social worker. Throughout my time in the military of the 20 years, I worked in numerous settings, leadership positions, whether it be at the policy level or within the clinical setting in the hospitals or clinics, also in a deployed environment as well. So throughout my time as a behavioral health officer, I provided therapy and treatment to the service members, military members, depending if it was in a joint service environment, and also family members as well. I also have a specific focus on PTSD, trauma therapy, domestic violence, and child abuse and sexual assault trauma.
Okay. Where were some of the areas that you were deployed in your career?
I deployed for a short stint over to Korea to provide some backup clinical services, Afghanistan in 2012, 13, the country of Jordan as well, and just a couple stints outside of that area before I was a behavioral health officer.
I see. And I'm sure working with all of your servicemen and women that you've probably seen a lot, especially with the post-trauma, PTSD, and suicide.
Yes, absolutely. As you know, that's why we have behavioral health officers within the military, is so that we could provide appropriate treatment services to our community. Those are the service members that are dealing with PTSD, whether it's post-war, pre-war, or pre-existing conditions that they come into the service with as well, that get exacerbated by a wartime situation or just with life in general.
I keep hearing different statistics on a daily basis for the suicide rate for military veterans. Do you have anything accurate as of today?
Well, you're absolutely right on that. As far as accuracy, they're always about, I would say, 2 years later when they post the actual numbers, and that's because they're going back and doing all the surveys. As we hear in our news and within the reports that we're receiving, as you know, and you have heard, that the numbers have been increasing, unfortunately, within the military, but also the veteran population as well. And so I don't want to pinpoint an exact number just because we know that they fluctuate from time to time. And then it's always good just for us to be aware that the numbers are increasing and address what are we doing to help this situation.
What, in your own opinion, what do you think some of the reasons are why the suicide rate is so high?
Well, that's a good question, Cindy. In my own opinion, I believe that there has been a large push for us to talk about mental health and normalize it, because we know that there is a significant stigma associated with seeking help. And because we have been making concerted effort within the military, and I believe in the nation as well, to support individuals with mental health issues that they're dealing with, that I think people are feeling more comfortable to come forward and seek those services. Therefore, that's another opportunity that we can count that this individual adds to our numbers per se. I do believe that's one of the issues. I'm pretty optimistic, and I feel that it is working, that we're educating the public to discuss mental health issues, normalizing it in a way that allows us to feel comfortable in reaching out when we need help. And that's most important.
Do you find addictions a higher rate when it comes to suicide?
Do I find addiction as a higher rate when it comes to suicide? Well, if you look at some of the studies, it's very difficult to identify the specific reason for suicide. There is even some data that that suicide rates are not associated with mental health disorders. And though there's some studies out there that focus on personality traits such as impulsivity or access to lethal means, and that might be completely separate from a mental health issue. So as far as addictions is concerned and suicide, we know there is clearly a connection, but it's just not the number one reason why people may go to the point where they attempt a suicide.
When I was talking to our other Lieutenant Colonel Ed Cerez, who's on the board, he's with the Minnesota National Guard and responsible for helping the development of the Yellow Ribbon program, reintegrating their officers all the way back home. That includes also providing services to family members, which is critical, as you know. And he had also commented, which was very interesting, that he had some of his military personnel that were either attempted or completed suicide that had never been in war or combat. So you're looking at what other things, what other variables are there that's causing them stress, as most will think it's the combat and the post-traumatic stress disorder. They've never really deployed and were active in combat, but yet they also had a high suicide rate.
Yeah, that's a good point. To address the Yellow Ribbon program that Colonel Juarez, congratulations to him, is working with. I'm very familiar working with that. Then specifically during my deployments, I had the luxury, or I would say the great opportunity, to work alongside multiple National Guard units. And so the Yellow Ribbon program is excellent because, just like Futures is doing with the alumni program and the families program, they make a concerted effort to educate the families on the experiences that their service member that deployed will deal with when they return, or potential issues they may have or not. So again, kudos to the Yellow Ribbon program. I think it's excellent. Anytime we have the opportunity to educate a family member on some of the issues that their loved one may be experiencing, it makes treatment and recovery that much better. In regards to the National Guard members that commit suicide or have mental health issues and never have been deployed, that is not surprising to me, in meaning that individuals that come into the military are individuals. They're just a microcosm of the rest of our nation, per se, the rest of the population. So we have pre-existing issues anyway. So if we already have mental health issues, we have additional stressors with life, whether it be with our family relationships, our pre-existing traumas growing up, we still have them, and we still serve the military. Just because a deployed environment and we've never deployed doesn't mean that we're not going to experience those same mental health issues. The same with first responders. As you know, like our Ascent track, we focus on first responders, not only veterans, but police officers, paramedics and firefighters, emergency responders. As you know, my husband's a police officer, my son's a firefighter, paramedic. So they unless they've served in the military, they do not deploy, but they also deal with the day-to-day traumas that they have to are exposed to and respond to on a daily basis, which is pretty significant. And we don't really focus on that much in our nation, which I'm glad that it's starting to, it's coming out in the news of the trauma that our first responders have to experience on a day-to-day basis. So exactly. That is another reason why I'm very passionate about serving on the advisory board with Futures, is because it really addresses the specific trauma that first responders and veterans deal with. It's a special population, and it requires individualized treatment care, but an opportunity to feel like they are safe in the environment where they're receiving the treatment and the care that they need for whatever mental health issues that they may be experiencing.
And what you just said is so on point, that the first thing that they look for is a safe place to land.
Yes.
A safe place where they're, especially for officers, that would get integrated with people they may have arrested. So that becomes a risk for them while they're in treatment because they're not treated the same then. So, but I hear oftentimes they'll say, I feel safe here. And I think that is critical because if they feel safe, that's conducive to them trusting and being able, as we know, officers and veterans are not self-disclosers. They're the ones that ask the questions. And so the importance of being able to put them in an environment that we can get them to feel safe and comfortable enough to trust. And if they can open that up, then the treatment goes much better because they're more open in dialogue, working with their primary therapists, and in addition, working through their groups that they'll be attending.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another reason why I am a big advocate for the Futures Recovery Healthcare and the Heroes Ascent track is because, firsthand visiting the center and seeing what your treatment modalities are in the milieu, which means the overall, area of care that provides a variety of services for the specific population. I think it is just perfect. I believe that your guys's, I would say, empathetic care treatment to the clients that we serve, that Futures serves, is very important. It creates that safe environment for them, and which we know, and I know firsthand, that is very important for a person to open up and recover. If they do not feel safe, if they do not, and this is firsthand experience from my clients, my patients, if they feel that they're going into a treatment center or even just seeing a therapist on an individual basis, and they feel that there's no empathetic care on that side, they won't open up. They'll just check the box and there will be no recovery that's going on.
How do you feel about when they return home? Because oftentimes when they come back, they're not the same. So now they're trying to reintegrate with their jobs, their loved ones, their families, babies that were born that they never met till they came home. How did they feel about going into treatment? Because they don't feel like they belong. They feel like a fish out of water. What are the things that can be done to help them reintegrate emotionally to feel like they're starting to become a part of society once again?
Are you saying, Cindy, if I could clarify your question, if they're reintegrating back after treatment?
After being deployed, after deployment,
Okay,
they're reintegrating back and things are different after a 2-year stint.
Yes. Okay. Well, so that is not an easy process, but it's an easy answer for me. So it's taking it slow. Again, the education portion of educating them on the issues that they may experience on the transition home, and educating their family members, similar to the Yellow Ribbon program. Active duty, we do the same thing. It's just called something, it's reintegration process, and we retitle it every so often. But educating them on the issues that they may experience, it's one thing I used to tell, like, large rooms of redeploying soldiers and military members, is that once you're in a combat zone, you are in an environment where you have to be alert 100% the entire time. You cannot turn it off. So they have to understand that when they get off that plane, they don't just turn off the switch and everything is going to be normal. They're going to still be keyed up. They're still going to be hyper vigilant and alert. And it's just going to take some time for them to normalize. About 90 days, when they see the downward, the downward feeling of not being as edged up and keyed up. And then we give them, or hypervigilant, I should say, and we give them tools and how to transition into the normalized environment. But it's very important that if they do have family members, that we educate them as well on what their service members that were just deployed will be experiencing. That is very key, because sometimes many of the service members will come back and just want to run, if they have a family, run the family again, when the whole year per se that they've been gone, things have been moving along, just like you said. So just letting them know that it's okay to slowly transition and start sharing the responsibilities again. I can go on and on. It could turn into a whole educational program right now, but there are many keys that and education opportunities that we provide our redeploying service members and their family members as well, to help them reintegrate back into the normal community.
Right. And that's one of the beauties of Futures Recovery Healthcare and the Heroes Ascent program is we place just the same amount of importance on family members as we do our patients because we understand the two go together. And for the complete recovery of our patients, they need understanding and education on the family's part, and they need help. They need help for them to understand it as well as get support so that they can get through the reintegration process as well. Because if the service officer is going through their own stuff, sometimes they don't have the ability to work with their family members except for just hope that they understand. So they need support to understand what they're going through, and then additionally get support services, including once they discharge from treatment, where are they going for aftercare, because aftercare is critical, I believe.
It is. It is. And that's another plug for the Heroes Ascent program and your alumni program is that transition back aftercare and to continue their individualized treatment is key and essential to recovery. And I think, and I know that your program helps the individual with that transition because it can be overwhelming, once they're in treatment for however many, a month or a couple months, and then they transition back to normal life. It's a lot to manage their next steps on their individual treatment and continued care. So the alumni program does a great job with reaching out to the individuals and helping them transition into their normalized life, as well as including the families.
Yes. Well, you know what, Tanya, we so appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. We thank you for your role and your assistance on our advisory board. We thank you for your service and would like to close this out by sending prayers, and God bless you and all of our military soldiers as well. So thank you for participating in our advisory board interview process, and God bless.
God bless you too. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Futures Recovery, for all that you do. I mean, we all have to play our part in helping with mental health issues, and I am just happy to be a part of it. Thank you.